Hey there, this is Therese Skelly, and I am so excited that you are going to be listening to an episode of the Fiercely Brilliant podcast. Do you like those two words? Fiercely Brilliant. My hypothesis is that you are here for a reason. We all are. Our souls have led us on journeys that have very often taken some twists and turns, and sometimes it's not pretty. Sometimes there's struggle and there's loss and there's challenge, and in the middle of that, there's always a way out. And it's those times that often lead us into our great life and work. So you're going to hear stories in these episodes of myself and other beautiful people that share the journey. They share how they got to the place where they're standing, working in their brilliance, and being the powerful leaders that they are. So stay tuned and enjoy this episode. Hey, this is another episode of the Fiercely Brilliant podcast with Therese Skelly. And I have a really lovely guest today, and she has a Southern accent. Oh my gosh. I'm a huge fan of all things accents, right? So I'm super excited to bring on Tonya Thomas today. So hello, Miss Tonya.
Hi, Therese. How are you?
I'm doing good. So I always like to start by just letting my guests share what you do. What's your business? How do you show up and serve the world? And what do you love about it?
Sure. My business, the name of it is Team Delegate, and we are an executive virtual assistant company. And one of what we do is we provide remote support to small business owners and entrepreneurs. And what I like about the company is I like sharing how business owners can grow their business through delegation, freeing them up to do what they do best.
That's really nice. So how did you get into this business?
My journey started in 2000. I came across a training program for virtual assistants, and it fit my background, and I took the training program, and I've been in the virtual assistant industry ever since then.
Mm-hmm. And were there any times, Tonya, because this is your own business, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I know sometimes when we start our own businesses, we bump into either mindset stuff like, who am I? Can I do this? Or just, how do I do it? Or, you know what I mean? So what kind of got in the way when you first started?
There was a lot of things, because this is year number 21 for me in business. So over that time period, it's been a lot of things. When I first started, there was the frustration of the industry being so new.
Right.
People didn't really know what it was or understand it. So the first challenge was me trying to network and with people locally and hitting a wall. Yeah. And then realizing after hitting that wall that I had to return to the workforce, and that was one hurdle there. And I could have thrown in a towel, but I continued trying to do it on the side. And I worked for 3 years until the company was bought out. And then I was laid off from that job. And it's like, okay, here's my opportunity to go full force into this again. And I had remembered the last time locally, it just didn't really catch on. So this time, being a bit smarter, I focused more online. And from that point, I never looked back. Mm-hmm. I've been doing it full time ever since then, and that was 2015. So it's been a while now. Right.
That's awesome. So I feel like in the business world, there's shame if you have to take a job. It's like the dreaded, oh my God, you have a job, right? And so how did you hold yourself knowing that you had to go back? How did you be okay with that, or how did you make that work?
It was difficult, because I didn't have a lot of time. I had a young son too at the time. I'm married, and that was the other challenge too. I think, me having to return to the workforce, my spouse he lost the faith in me being able to do it too. So that was another hurdle of getting over that. But being working in the job, I looked at it as from the positive side. I had income now to be able to feed into the business, to be able to help market it. So I had my full-time job, and so that helped make ends meet with the family. And then whatever money that I made from the business, I just reinvested back into it. So it was actually ended up being a plus, and that helped me to be able to develop a better website, really get my logo the way I wanted it. So I was building it up on the side. And from a time standpoint, it was still challenging.
Right.
And just, being able to do it on the side. But those were the positives. And I just focused on those positives.
That's awesome.
Realizing that it was going to come to an end and I'd be able to do it full time. And that's what happened.
So I heard that your spouse was not the number one fan of these things in some ways. So number one, how did that work? And because it's really easy, especially when it's not fully solid, right? When you're a little tenuous with it, it's really easy to say, maybe I'm wrong, or yeah, maybe I'll just give it up. So how did you navigate I'm supposed to have a business and I know, honey, be quiet. Like how did you do that?
Really we didn't really talk about it much. And so that was the thing when I talked about having a job and being able to feed things back into it, because since he had lost, faith in that it was going to work, that's when I was able to, still keep it separate. And we just really didn't, discuss it. But I kept thinking in my mind, I'm going to prove him wrong. And so that's, that was a little bit of motivation too, that kept me going. But so I felt like it was best if we didn't approach that subject. And so that was kind of how I handle it. I just let the actions speak for themselves, so to speak.
So how did you not give up on your dream then? Because a lot of other women would have said, I got a 2-year-old, I got a husband that's not thrilled. Like what's the thing in you, Tonya, that kept the fire going, like the knowing? Because you were a pioneer. I mean, people did not know what virtual assistants were back all that days ago. So how did you keep that, like, I'm supposed to do this?
That's a good question, because, it does get very discouraging when you're hitting roadblocks like that. But what kept me going was knowing why I wanted it. I kept my why in the forefront of my mind. And for me, that was to have that freedom and flexibility over my schedule so that I could be there for my then one son. And so that was what kept me motivated and going for that end goal. And I think that's what you have to do, knowing your why, because that's what's going to pull you through when the tough gets going.
I love that. So what else inspires you in terms of keeping going? Because it's one thing to know your why, but then stuff falls on top of it. Life happens. People get sick. People die. The economy, racism, all kinds of stuff happens. And so how do you hold on to that in the face of adversity or challenges?
For me, it's because you're right. I still run into roadblocks now.
We all do. That's the thing,
exactly.
Right? Yeah.
You have to look, which is the old saying, you have to look on the bright side. So anything that I encounter, and maybe it's a failure, I always think there's a lesson here. And this lesson is whatever I look for it, and I always find it. What I could have done better or done differently. And I know that that's going to make me stronger. So I know the next time this is going to happen the next time. But yet it's just making me stronger and helping me get to my journey. And when I get there, I'm going to be the better for it.
Right.
Having gone through, whatever it was that I encountered, on this entrepreneurial journey.
And it's this entrepreneurial journey, it will kick you in the head.
Right, exactly.
So, what I'm hearing, you're not saying this word, but you're defining the word resilience, right? Like, I know I can bounce back. I know my purpose. I'm like, you're super focused, but I love the reframe around this is going to make me stronger. Like, yeah, I can handle this, whatever failure, mistake, setback, because you have that like mindset that's like, I will use this for my growth. This isn't going to take me down. So were you raised with this resilience? Did you have to develop it? Do you take pills to get it? I'm being facetious with that, because it's like resilience is a pretty important quality, and not everybody has it. It's usually a thing to be developed. So how did this come about for you?
It is. And that just takes me takes me back because when I think back on it, I've always been that way my whole life. But as a matter of fact, my mom, in speaking to her a few weeks ago, because I talked to her about the business and stuff, and she said, you're just like your dad. He was that way. You just have that drive. You're not going to give up. It's just a drive there. So I don't know if that's something that's just ingrained internally in me, but I don't. And I was an athlete. I don't like to throw in the towel. I'm just going to keep going. If something tries to get in the way, I'm going to press my way through because I want to win.
Boom. So what's so cool is like here's the problem. Like, you've heard the term unconscious competence. Have you heard that? Whereby you do something so naturally, you just do it unconsciously. And other people look at you and go, what? Like, so what I heard was, you had a mom and a dad that nourished that. So you had a demonstration of, you just keep going. You're just driven, you're focused. And then you playing sports, of course, so you have this thing in you that you can get what you want. Does that make sense?
Correct. Right. It does. Yes.
Go ahead. Keep talking.
And, she reminded me, remember, I did always tell you, me and my sisters, that you can do anything that you set your mind to. And maybe her feeding that into me, it just got buried in there.
I love your mama. We thank her. Like that's magical, right? Like that's the power.
Right.
There's like the nurture nature argument, right? And so not only did you see the demonstration, but you had a mama, like God bless the mamas of the world, like literally programming you for this. Right. But what if somebody didn't have your mama, or didn't have the demonstration of the father, or didn't get the chance to be on sports teams? Like, and I'm sure some of your business owners, if you're helping them delegate and manage their lives a little bit better, like if they don't have the background or the foundation that you have, what would you say to them? Like, how would you help keep going? You can do it. Like, what would you say to them?
I would say to them that, it can be, and this is true, because this is when it comes to delegating too, that's for a lot of people, they don't want to do it because it's going to take a little extra effort and time. But I remind them on the back end, you're going to reap the rewards. And that's really the same too in running a business. Like when we're talking about the roadblocks, if you can get past them, you're going to reap the rewards on the other side. And so that's always the advice that I give to clients too when it comes to delegating. You may be in the weeds a little bit when you're having to develop, what you want to give to somebody and then how you're going to give it to them. All of that takes work, but you're going to be glad that you did it once it's done.
So you're kind of like, that I think it's like the title, Keep Your Eye on the Prize. It sounds like that's what you teach people to do, right? Like, how's it going to feel at the end? What are you going to like at the end? Yeah. I use it, Tonya, the work I do with people, I use the term collapse, because that's what I see people is like, I didn't have your mama or your daddy, demonstrating the really cool things that they demonstrated for you. And what happens is a lot of people, they set out to do something, but either mindset blocks or other strategy blocks, whatever, and they just collapse. They're not unstoppable. And I hear that you know how to be unstoppable. And so I just want to contrast, so if you are a person who is collapsing, and there's no shame in it, sometimes you have to stop. Like you talked, you said okay, I got to get a job temporarily, but you never gave up your vision, right? So even though you were sidetracked, you still were moving forward, if you will. But if somebody is like stopping, in addition to keep your eye on the prize, know what you want, is there any other, and you probably just do it so naturally, so I don't even know if you have anything to contribute here. Anything else you would share that would be here's how to get out of that. Here's what else to do to focus on that.
Yes, and I'll be, transparent. I do have my moments, which is like the breakdown moments, and it's like I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah,
maybe
we all do. Yeah,
right. Maybe this isn't my path. Whatever it is. But I say have those moments but don't stay there. Give yourself that opportunity, whether it's 24 hours or 3 hours or whatever it is, to have that moment and then that's it. So set that ground rule of what that's going to look like, that you give yourself that time frame, and then dust yourself off and go back and analyze and think, what could I have done differently in this situation? Was it something else that I could have done? Look towards yourself, because a lot of times, you can't, if it involved another person in another situation, and typically in business, that's what it is.
Right.
But, only thing you can do is internalize on your own end and figure out what it is that maybe you could have done better, and then decide and think, is this the end for me, or do I want to keep going? Just ask yourself that. And if I stop, what's going to be what else can I do? Is there an alternative? And how do I feel about that alternative? The second thing is ask yourself, well, do I want to keep going? And if I keep going, what does that look like? So that's the typical exercise that I like to try to do. And that's the advice that I would give to others to do too. And you'll typically make that decision to keep going if this is your passion.
Right. Most of us do. How do you get support for yourself? Like what feeds you and nourishes you and keeps you going? Because I think sometimes for me, when we're in that fall down place, I don't know, for me, I call in the girls, or, cuddle with my sweetie, or whatever. Like we can't do it by ourselves. So how do you get support?
I love that question too, Therese, because you're right. You do have to have that too. So I do have support now. I have support. I mentioned my mother. She's a big cheerleader. So I, go to her. And now, of course, my husband, because now I've been doing this for so long, he's obviously, back on the bandwagon from a long time ago. And he had to eat his words and say, I'm glad you kept going, because, this has been fantastic. So now he is a big supporter, and he gives me great advice. When I'm in those moments, he helps, get me past them too. So you're right. I do that. I have those support systems. And then I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I have what I call virtual mentors, people that I listen to a lot. That's very helpful as well.
That's great. And I just have to say about your husband, you just said, I'm going to prove you wrong. And you did.
Exactly.
Now he's on the team, right? Like that is so great. The video here is crazy today. So that's really awesome. Awesome. So Tonya, what's next for you? Like, is there an expansion, or are you at capacity? Like, where are you at with your business?
Yes, I am developing some coaching programs as well, coaching programs for, other people who want to be a virtual assistant. And then also coaching, I've realized a lot from potential clients, people who need more support as it relates to delegating. So I'm developing a course around delegation to help people understand the deepness that's involved in it, to be able to do it efficiently.
Yeah. That's really awesome. So how do you get to the point, in terms of delegation? Because there's a bunch of mindset stuff in it. Like, nobody can do it as good as I can. You already talked about the time issue. It takes too much time. Another one I've heard a lot is I can't trust. A lot of can't. It's either nobody will do it as good, or I can't trust. Somebody will steal my stuff, take my money, blah, 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 right? And so I feel like you have to have a right mindset to let things go, because a lot of us are control freaks. Like, if we start our own business, we want to be in charge, right? So how do you help somebody get past those very real questions? So what would you say to somebody to let that stuff go?
The advice that I like to give around the trust is to start small.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, when you're first getting started with someone, you're not just if you have a trust issue, you're not just going to give over everything. But start with something small that you're comfortable with starting with, and work your way up from there. Once they've taken that on and they've been doing it for a little while and you feel comfortable, add something else in. And the second piece to that too is developing that relationship, communication. Communicating with them on a regular basis, getting to know them, that also helps with that trust factor piece of it as well. And so doing those things help people. And then the other side of that is you've got to know what your end goal is. For people who are reluctant to delegating, what typically happens is you're going to maybe end up being in the burnout stage. If you're trying to keep everything, you
100%.
can't keep everything.
Yes.
And that's where you'll end up. And then you're also going to end up eventually bottlenecking your growth as well. So you've got those two end results. For people who are reluctant to doing it and don't want to give up, that's what you're headed towards.
I feel like that when I had the most support on my team, it was when I got really real with me and just self-aware and said, I am the bottleneck because I know what I want and then I got to communicate. So I ended up bringing a project or business manager on basically. But I think a lot of people, and I had VAs. So in my mind, I was delegating like, well, this one does that, this one was that, this one, but I had to manage it all. And I had to, you know what I mean? Like, so even though I had assistance, the system that I was using made me the bottleneck. And I also think, I don't have this problem right now, but I think there are a lot of people that, like, let's just face it, it takes money. You got to invest in another person to help you in your business. And I feel like a lot of people don't prioritize, like I'll spend a whole bunch of money on a website, on Facebook ads, but to say like, wow, if I could get 10 hours back, you know what I mean? Like do you think there's like a deservability issue or I don't deserve that or I can't receive that? Like, I don't know. I'm the mindset person. So I always go to like why things bottleneck. So what's your thought about people not getting themselves as much? That's why I asked you about support earlier, right? And you clearly have the support, but what would you say about not getting yourself as much support? What do you think happens or why? What have you seen?
I think it has to do with, and you touched up on one of the points of it too. Sometimes it's the investment piece of it for people. They look at it as an expense instead of an investment.
Right.
Because when you bring someone on, anytime you hire somebody, it is an investment for you. And you're looking to get a return typically on time. And so I think if people would look at it from that standpoint, what is it going to do for me? You're right. If I get this extra 10 hours of time, what can I do with that in order to drive the business forward? Right. Instead of looking at it again from, well, I got to pay this person this amount of money, how can I do that? And so you have to keep in mind that you hire to grow, not grow to hire.
Oh,
because if you look at it from that standpoint,
that's really good. Slow that train down. You hire to grow, not grow. So it's not, I'll hire when, it's hire now, knowing that, oh my gosh, hire to grow, not grow to hire. That's brilliant. Boom, wisdom drop there. Okay, keep going. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that was just so good. I had to punctuate it. So
yeah, and so that's the way you have to look at it. Because I think otherwise you wouldn't move forward with it if you looked at it from that standpoint of it being an expense.
You know what I think is that when I would coach people, I would say, what are you charging? Let's say $300 an hour. Why are you doing $20 an hour tasks then? And I feel like that comes to, like, there's the old work ethic of, I just got to do it all, or I can't ask for help. A lot of women are raised, can't ask for help, got to do it all. Raise your hand if you're a firstborn child, right? That's the deal. And the valuing, like for me, I'm at the point of like, I don't care how much I have to pay. My time is valuable. Even if I'm even if I'm not doing a good ROI thing, even if I'm just choosing to chill, the value of I deserve to have a business that supports me. And I feel like, and I'm sure you did in the beginning too, we all have to do everything in the beginning. We're kind of slaves to the business because we don't have the money to invest. So it's really hard when you're in this like scramble around mode to go, oh, wait, I can do it differently and have people support me. Like that's a big shift for a lot of people.
Exactly, it is. And so it's a completely different mindset to be able to think that way. And you touched upon a good point, because I talk to people about that too, looking at what is your time worth? because a lot of times they don't look at it from that standpoint.
Right.
You're right. If your rate, as you said, is maybe $300 an hour, then you should be fine with paying somebody much less than
Absolutely.
that to be able to get the support. It just makes math sense.
Right.
It makes better financial sense to do that.
Right.
But so that is another way to look at it if you're thinking about getting that support. I think that's huge.
Right. Get your hands off the wheel. You can't do everything. You shouldn't do everything, right? Don't. No. All right. So Tonya, I know you have a Facebook group that you want to invite people to. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that and what they can learn? And gang, we'll have in the show notes all Tonya's contact information and the address for her Facebook group. But what do you get in the Facebook group with you?
Sure. It's called Successful Delegation Strategies, and we share tips and about delegation in there. And then I also go live, take questions. So people who have questions around delegating, which a lot of people have many questions, some that we talked about. Yeah. And so we also have, workshops and things of that nature as well.
That's awesome. Perfect. All right. And so folks can contact you. So again, why don't you just say your URL, and again, it'll also be in the show notes so they can find you in addition to your Facebook group. What's your URL if they want to just go straight to your website?
teamdelegate.com, and then there's also teamdelegate.com/downloads, and then there they can have, we talked about the ROI, there's an ROI calculator there and some other resources.
Wow, fabulous. That's great. Y'all should just jump on, get that one, right? Perfect. All right, honey, is there anything as we wrap up, is there anything else you want, any bits of wisdom or inspiration or encouragement that you want to share with the folks?
Sure. For me, I would say just never give up. If you have that true entrepreneurial spirit, let that drive you and keep your mind on your why. Always have people around you who can support you, because you will need that. Then also make sure that you have a mentor of some sort too, who can support you as well. So just have as much support as you can and continue on your journey. Don't keep your goals somewhere where you can see them each day so you can stay focused on them, knowing that seeing them, you're going to get there.
I love that. And talk to your mama. I wish I had your mama. She sounds, give her my best. Tell her thank you for instilling that in you. And being a great, I'm a mom, we're moms. And it's like, am I doing it right? You don't know, right? But just exactly. Like you can do anything. Like, what a beautiful message to have heard, to literally be imprinted with your whole life. So give your mom my best, because we need more mamas telling their children that, and we all need to hear that as well. So I want your mom to call me and tell me that. Anyway, so gang, I really appreciate you listening to this episode, and follow Tonya. We'll have all the links in the show notes. And as usual, thanks again for listening. Peace and blessings. Bye now.
Hey, this is Therese, and I'm so excited that you were with us today for another episode of the Fiercely Brilliant podcast. If you are inspired to get to that brilliant place, if you heard some wisdom today that made you think, yeah, I need some help in that area, I would encourage you to have a conversation with me. Super simple. You just go to thereseskelly.com/let's connect. It's a no charge, no pressure conversation. And if I can support you to clear the blocks, to really step into that brilliance, oh my gosh, it would be a delight. And I'll be honest with you, we'll just have a great conversation and see where we can take it. Peace and blessings. Bye.